Good day. I'm Joseph Noor. I'm a medical doctor and a biochemist, and I'm the author of Document X, Direct Evidence of God's Existence. The question is the Big Bang a final and complete theory? And the answer is no, because there are still many unanswered questions. For example, what happened before the Big Bang? What caused the Big Bang? Some scientists theorize that before our universe, there were two other universes called brains, and they collided with each other, and that generated the energy of our Big Bang. But those universes are inaccessible to science. Recently, we've heard some information from the James Webb Telescope that it relayed some information to the Earth. There's been some data that seem to contradict some of the aspects of the Big Bang theory. Like all other theories, there's always shortcomings, but they are eventually corrected. So I don't think we should be overly worried that the foundation of the Big Bang is threatened. But that is the beauty of science, There's no such thing as absolute certainty. We continue to evaluate and reassess theories. We need to keep an open mind. Now, the Quran does not restrict itself to a particular theory, because, as I just said now, theories are constantly updated, refined, even discarded. What the Quran does is it lays down the general principles of a particular theory and allows scope for development as knowledge advances. Now, are there other theories that attempt to explain the origin of the universe? A very popular one was the steady-state theory. And what this theory proposed is that the universe has always existed and will continue to exist into an infinite future. And this theory was very popular in the 1950s because it neatly disposed of a creator to explain the origin of creation. But because of solid data which emerged from the Big Bang, this theory now has been discredited. Another theory is that of the oscillating universe. And that is that our universe, for example, is now in a state of expansion. And this is just a phase of many expansion-contraction cycles, going back into an infinite past and will continue to an infinite future. Now, again, there are some problems with this theory and has initially been discarded, but now I believe it has resurfaced with some minor modifications. Then there's another theory which states that the universe came from nothing. Now, this might sound preposterous, but let's look at this idea in terms of the law of conservation. Now, if you have a system like the universe and it has certain properties like mass, energy, charge, and so forth, then what the theory of conservation tells us is that these energies or these parameters must be preserved. In other words, if you begin with a certain amount of energy, then at the end you should end up with the same amount of energy. Now, if you add up all the energies of the universe, now energies, they come in two forms, in a negative form and in a positive form. Now, curiously, when you add up the energies, it comes to zero. And the same applies to the charges. If you add up the charges of the universe, the total charges cancel each other out. So we seem to have an answer where the universe came from nothing. Case closed? Well, not quite really, because scientists claim that out of sheer nothingness, they can explain how a nugget of the false vacuum can flip into existence as a quantum fluctuation. And this tiny bubble of space-time can then be inflated by the theory known as inflation. But where does the idea of energy come from? Who invented this concept of energy, charge, false vacuum? And what explains their mathematical behavior? It's based on a set of principles called the quantum rules. Now, scientists don't have the foggiest idea where these laws come from. So, until we have an answer to this question, this creation out of nothing is still a tantalizing mystery. Applying the rules of Einstein and quantum mechanics, we can reconstruct the sequence of events that took place within 3 minutes of creation 13.5 billion years ago, which is a remarkable achievement. But as we edge closer towards the Big Bang, conditions become more extreme and the laws of nature more obscure and less understood. And our feeble technology cannot handle those extreme conditions until we reach a limit called the Planck limit, and that is about 10 to the power minus 43 seconds after the instant of creation. At that level, the laws break down completely and they speak gibberish. So, is that a limit set by God where human knowledge must now stop and God must take over? I don't think we should stop there, but science must continue to push the boundaries, and we need answers. Another paradox is the following concerning the origin of the universe. Remember, as we edge closer towards the very beginning, the temperature rises dramatically. The universe becomes more and more dense until it reaches the beginning point. It reaches infinite proportions as far as density is concerned, smallness is concerned, and temperature is concerned. But since such an entity does not exist, it cannot exist in reality. It is a state of non-existence. Does that mean that the singularity represents a state of non-existence, or rather a transition state from non-being to being? If the singularity is a point of infinite temperature, of infinite smallness, of infinite density, how do we go from this infinity to definite values? Because if you halve infinity, you still get infinity. A quarter of infinity is still infinity. So how does one go from infinity, which is the initial state of the universe, to definite values? That is another paradox. For me, there's going to have to be a limit, because we can reconstruct events. We can go back 13.5 billion years into the past and get closer and closer and closer towards the very beginning, the origin of the universe. But how did that first step from non-being to being, how did that first step take place? Will we ever be able to explain that first step from nothingness to something? For me, that missing ingredient will always be God. Now, these statements are made now about the mystery of the origin of the universe from that state of nothingness. It's not a religious statement. It's actually a scientific statement, because science leads us to that as we go along, as we edge towards the Big Bang. Space and time eventually loses its meaning and vanishes into non-existence. So into nothingness, in other words. So we will elaborate on this as we go along, as the discussion proceeds in the future lectures.